In celebration of women everywhere on International Women's Day, we'd like to ask for a moment of silence as we think of the women in Ukraine who are mothers, daughters, sisters, aunties, and friends with family and loved ones who are working so very hard just to stay alive. Thank you. At this time, I would like to share just a little bit about one of our campus programs called Circle of Ivy. Founded in 2015, the Ivy Tech Foundation established Circle of Ivy, Women in Philanthropy, raising funds to create resources and eliminate barriers to higher education for Ivy Tech Community College students. The vision is that Circle of Ivy will foster community and prosperity with our students and cultivate women of all ages as philanthropists. The organization has grown to almost 900 members who have collectively raised more than $680,000 to support innovative campus projects impacting local students across the state. Here at the Fort Wayne campus, Circle of Ivy has had great impact as our donors have chosen to provide money for our Helping Hands Emergency Fund to benefit our local students. This past fall, 2021, over $97,000 in emergency requests were made by our students. With the help of Circle of Ivy, 23 students were funded with $10,000 to help cover rent, car repairs, utility bills, etc. With only $15, students can join the Circle of Ivy, or student sponsorships can be provided. Please take a look at the brochures on your table and know that your contribution can make a difference. Thank you. Finally, I would like to invite one of our own women in philanthropy and a great example of someone who has had to figure out how to balance both work and family, our Chancellor, Dr. Kim Barnett Johnson. Please help me with a warm welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited about this because, COVID kind of had us out of whack for a while. And when we did see each other, we saw each other on little boxes with, that was just kind of strange. And so it's nice to be able to be back in a room together with or without a mask, totally up to you, but just to be able to see people in fellowship with folks. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you for joining us for this event for Women's History. We try our best as a campus to always provide opportunities for training and learning and growth. And this is just another one of those exciting opportunities. So I hope and pray that when our speaker comes, I know she's going to energize you and excite you, and we're really, really excited about that. I am supposed to introduce her, but I am going to say a couple of other things first. So Joanne's already mentioned Circle of Ivy. I want to just put in another shameless plug for Circle of Ivy. If you all are interested in just being a part of this organization, it's a wonderful organization to be a part of. We try to have events on campus where we bring all of the ladies together so that we can fellowship and socialize. The brochure on your table kind of explains what it's all about. Unfortunately, men, we don't have any men in Circle of Ivy. However, if you have a spouse, you're more than welcome to sponsor her so that she can be a part of it, because you don't have to be an employee or a student to be a part of Circle of Ivy. So I really would encourage you all to consider that. We also have a donor that is willing to sponsor some students. How many students do we have in the room? Okay, so if you're interested in being a part of Circle of Ivy, we have a donor that's willing to sponsor you. If you would, just fill out the card and give it to me before you leave. And we'll make sure that we get that turned in to the donor so that you can become a part of this organization for this year, okay? All righty. Another shameless plug. So one of our organization leaders, Nicole Corey, was not able to stay with us today, but she asked me to also mention the organization Spirit. Spirit is a organization specifically for women that was created however many years ago was it, Diana, by Dr. Diana Jackson Davis, Wave Diana, and myself. And so basically, let me just tell you what SPIRIT stands for. It stands for Sisters Promoting Integrity while Recognizing Individual Talents. It's an empowerment club for female students of a diverse cultural background that promotes educational excellence and integrity while recognizing individual talents and achievements. The purpose is to provide a collegiate and supportive atmosphere where females of diverse cultural backgrounds can engage in community involvement, networking, and character building, along with discussion and self-expression about the challenges, celebrations, and complexities related to their educational experiences at Ivy Tech. So we do have some flyers. If you are, as a student, are interested in being a part of that organization, Joanne is holding them up. If you would like to grab one of those and fill that out, we'll be in contact with you. And for those of you who are not students, part of this organization is mentoring. So if you think you might want to be a mentor to one of these young ladies, we'd love to hear from you as well. All right? All right, so now what I'm here for, I'm sorry. You know how it goes, right? I am here, I have the privilege of introducing our speaker today. I met Kristal a couple of months ago at another event, and I'm gonna tell you, when she spoke, I listened, right? You know how many times we go to events sometimes and there's a speaker and we're kind of listening and we're kind of not listening. Well, I guarantee you, you're gonna listen today because this young lady has a lot to say. I'm gonna read just a little bit of her bio. This is Dr. Christina Walker, is a certified professional in training management, that's what CPTM stands for, and has worked in learning, leadership, and organization development space for over 15 years, helping clients engage people, apply processes, and implement technology to improve human and organizational performance. She currently serves as the Vice President of Employee Wellbeing at Sweetwater Sound, where she's responsible for crafting and leading wellness, diversity and inclusion, and other training initiatives. She's a teacher by trade and a thought leader by temperament. Dr. Walker brings great value to the partnerships and relationships she has built over the course of her career. Her passion for personal and professional transformation and others continue to heighten her interest in creating impactful learning and experiences. So like I said, Dr. Walker has a lot to share with us today, and I'm looking forward to every minute of it. So here she is, Dr. Kristal Walker.
Good afternoon, everybody. How y'all doing this afternoon? I like to walk and talk a little bit, so if I come near your table, trust I won't make you say anything. The goal really is to just kind of keep you engaged and to make sure that you're here present with us today. First of all, let me just say thank you for the invitation. I am always honored, humbled, and flattered when I get opportunities to speak, because at one point you couldn't get me to stand in front of a room without being shy, embarrassed. And if I'm completely honest, as many speaking engagements that I have done and training opportunities that I've had, I still get butterflies. So let me just put that out there first. Really excited to be able to talk to you all today. I'm going to speak from a subject, and I know this is Women's History Day, the official day. We're celebrating the accomplishments of women all over the world for this entire month. But I wanted to present a topic today that just kind of shifts our perspective. And the name of my presentation today is Barriers or Bridges. And so I hope that as I share a little bit about me, my experiences, that you would think about some of the challenges that women have had to overcome throughout history, even your own personal challenges. But I also want you to shift your perspective just a little bit to think about any challenge that you've had to experience and how that has gotten you where you are today. Is that okay? All right. So first thing I want to do, let's break ice just a moment. I want you to look at a sister next to you, a woman next to you, and tell them just how good they look today. Can we do that for a moment? Gentlemen, look at a sister, tell them just how good they look today, all right? I mean, we can all use a compliment every now and then, right? So I also want to just address the fact that today is International Women's History Month Day. Can we celebrate that? Like the fact that we have a whole holiday and the world is centered around us today, I think we get to gloat in that a little bit today. So I'm excited about that. So here's just some information. Dr. Kim had shared my bio, brief version of my bio. I like to put this up here for the people who need to see it. I'm not one of those individuals. But I think what's most important about this slide is I've been able to accomplish a lot with God's help, with the support of my family, my spouse, even my children has played an important pivotal role in where I am today. But you see that little bitty bullet at the very bottom where it talks about my experience and all the years that I have in all those different areas. That's the one that I'm most proud of. It took me 43 years to become Kristal. And without all of that experience, and all of that is great, the level of accomplishments that I've been able to have, what I really want you to know is that I am a woman, I'm a person, I love to laugh, I love to have intimate conversations with people. Platforms are great, but I'll never starve for one or feel like I need to have one because I just enjoy building relationships with individuals. But what I've learned in all of the roles that I've had an opportunity to serve in is that the center of who I am, there's a leader, right? There's a leader, even if in certain points of my life where I've had to lead myself. And I'm really, really big on leadership development, specifically for women, because there were a lot of moments in my life that I didn't have a leader when I really needed one. And so I value that opportunity to be able to share experience, to be able to encourage other individuals throughout, whether I'm serving at work, at church, within the community, in my family, whatever that looks like. It's really, really, really important to me. So I just want to just get a couple of volunteers. Tell me, why are you here today? I know this is an event that's planned, but I would love for a couple of folks to just shout out. Why are you here today? To learn about my title at Sweetwater. Okay, I'll definitely share. Yes. Okay, awesome. Thank you. And food. There you go. It's always a sure way to get you here. Anybody else? Why are you here today? Social engagement, right? So I would hope the goal of that question really was to break the ice, but to also get you to understand that there is a time and a place for everything, and that everything we do is intentional. And sometimes we can find ourselves in lunch and learn sessions and speaking engagements, different settings where the very thing that we need in that moment is right. And so despite the food, learning about who I am and what I do at Sweetwater, I'm actually the Vice President of Employee Wellbeing, where I am responsible for managing everybody's mental health to some capacity and providing resources for that. So y'all pray for me. I am also responsible for our diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. And I'm also responsible for soft skills training and development. Now, as you can imagine, those are 3 full-time jobs. So again, y'all pray for me, okay? I want to just make sure that we're really, really clear on some of the things that we're going to talk about today. And I won't be before you long because I definitely want to have some time for Q&A if you have questions. But I really want to focus on 2 things. I want to focus on what are some of the stats? What are some of the actual barriers that women have experienced in the workplace or are currently experienced in the workplace? So we're going to look at some literature from McKinsey and Associates. They've done some research for over the past 7 years specifically about women in the workplace and what were some of their challenges that they've had to overcome and are still overcoming. And then we're going to talk about what is it actually going to take for you to build a bridge to overcome those barriers. So hopefully I can bring together, again, some different perspective of, is it a barrier or is it really a bridge to your next path, okay? So again, we're going to be focusing specifically, I want to share 10 specific barriers. There are probably many out there, but as I was putting this together, I found myself getting a little depressed that there were so many barriers that we had to overcome in the workplace and just in life general. And I started to think, man, we got a lot of work to do. We've done some great things as a country to be able to advance the work of women and have us to be recognized, but man, we sure do have a long way to go. And so I would encourage, as you begin to think about your barriers, what part you're going to play in the progression of women and their opportunities to advance within the workplace. So these are 10 specific barriers, and the first one is this. If you look at these stats, this is a stat that shows specifically the level of women in various positions. So from entry level all the way to the C-suite. And this research has been facilitated for the last 7 years, and they're gonna, McKinsey is gonna continue to add to this research on an annual basis. But what we can see here from an entry level position, you still have women who are struggling to really make their way on the scenes of certain positions and opportunities. So if you look at a very entry level, you got white men at 37 or 35%, men of color 17%, white women 30%, and women of color at 17%. That's just to get in the job. Okay. Then to make your way up to the highest level of leadership, you got 62% white men, 13% black men, 20% white women, and 4% black women. So you can see clearly some of the disparities, even if you were just kind of looking at where we are, where we need to go. And a lot of this is just, some of it is industry-based, right? Specifically for Sweetwater, musicians, the world of music instrument retail is traditionally male-dominated, right? But how many of you guys remember a few years ago when Beyonce wanted to put together an all-girl band? Right, so that let us know, when you think about artists like Beyonce and Taylor Swift and all these other amazing musicians, female musicians that are coming up, we're breaking ground in a lot of different spaces. We actually have posted a Women in High Tech event last week at Sweetwater, and just to see the women who are breaking ground in the tech space has just been phenomenal. So the second stat that I want to point out, when you think about a woman's transition into her first management role, these are the stats. So for every 100 men who are promoted, only 86 are promoted. So there's some opportunity for women to be a little bit more boisterous and vocal about their experiences and their skill sets when those opportunities present themselves. And this, again, is not to make anybody feel comfortable in any way. This is just factual information and the opportunities that we have that some will identify as a barrier. Okay? The third stat that I want to share is this is a share of employees who are consistently burned out. Now, we've really seen this over the last couple of years, and there were some blessings and some lessons as a result of COVID. But I think one of the things that I'm super excited about is we finally got some attention around some very important topics like employee well-being and diversity, equity, and inclusion. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is not a new concept. It did not just come about in 2020. It's actually been around for as long as the civil rights have been in existence. Okay, the formal work of it. But these are just some stats, and feel free to share this deck with everybody here in attendance if you guys want these specifically. The fourth stat that I wanted to share, or fourth barrier, this is how managers are supporting employees as it relates to well-being and the workloads. So you can see, again, women are putting forth much more energy and much more effort in taking care of that. That could potentially be attributed to our nurturing characteristics. It could be just because we're a little bit more focused, we're trying to be a little bit more intentional. Doesn't mean that men aren't doing the work. The stats just show that women are a little bit more intentional about doing work, which inevitably attributes to our burnout. Okay? Because while we're taking care of everybody else, again, who's taking care of us? Right? Fifth stat, how leaders are promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. Same thing. When you look from a male versus female perspective, these are some of the stats. And this is broken down by just first level management through senior leaders. Here's what's important that I try to get across to a lot of individuals who just don't understand the work of an executive. Even though you need buy-in oftentimes at the executive level, it's really everybody all hands on deck. And if you really want to manage change, if you really want to roll out a new initiative, you get with the hiring managers or the individuals that's actually connected to the employees and that have their relationship with them every day. Those are the individuals that you want to pour into. Those are the individuals that you want to support. Not that everyone else is not important, but that's a key position in a key role that you want to make sure that you're always investing in. Okay. Number 5. And again, as I was looking through this, I'm like, man, this is a lot. Number 6, sorry. How leaders are showing up as allies to women of color in the workplace. So again, another breakdown. Women are supporting women. That's a beautiful thing, especially in cultures where I've heard women literally say, I just don't get along with women. I don't do women. What do you mean you don't do women? Who do you do? Right? We're all together, right? So this I thought was extremely impressive. But again, another barrier, another potential barrier, because it's every time we give out, something else is being taken away from us. Okay. Number 7, women in leadership are more likely to face certain microaggressions. So these are, again, some other stats based on entry-level status all the way to a senior leader status. I will make you cry if I told you some of the stories that I've had to endure throughout my career. Not going to go there today, but this is a real thing. And a lot of it comes based on our lack of cultural intelligence. When we stop limiting the definition of culture to only be identified or in relation to race and ethnicity and identity, and we understand that culture is just a way of life of a group of people who share certain characteristics, that group of people can be anybody, right? And so we miss out on opportunities when we are culturally intelligent and we say crazy things that could potentially be offensive or very hurtful. All right, the 8th stat, women of color are more likely to face disrespectful and othering microaggressions. So this is the instance where not only am I experiencing certain situations or certain, and I'll just share one. I said I wasn't going to go deep. I was 26 years old when I worked for a property management company, and I had an opportunity to go on a travel trip with my boss, who happened to be a white VP woman. And she had asked the team when we were away to give our feedback about the experience. And I had just started my doctoral degree program, and I just learned about transformational leadership. And she went around the table and she asked everyone about their perspective of the experience. And I said, man, this is a great example of transformational leadership. At that time, I was only a development assistant, so I was honored to even be sitting at the table with all of these executives. But she asked, and I gave my perspective. Well, when we got back to the office the next day, she says, before she said hi, come here, let me give you my little 2 cents. You need to learn when to shut up. And I'm thinking, what the heck did I do? What did I say, right? She says, I am a professional executive and I do not want to be compared to your bookwork. Oh, well, when I made the comment, I was actually giving you a compliment. We just learned about this concept, and I think that the way you empower us as a team to be able to be engaged in this work was very impressive. I apologize if I offended you. 9 months later, we had transformational leadership coming out as a part of a professional development training from HR. But I had to make up in that moment. I had to make up my mind in that moment. Are you going to shut up? Are you going to become a little bit more culturally and emotional intelligent so you know how to speak and when to speak and what you need to respond to? And so these things are real. I appreciated that. I'll make you laugh to soften it up a little bit because I honestly respect her. She actually sharpened me at a very young age to be able to work in corporate America as a Black woman. As I started getting older, and as I started having leadership opportunities and managing teams, there's been a lot of people I've been wanting to tell to shut up. I can't do that. But I learned from that experience, right? But it's very real. So these things that I'm sharing, it's not, again, to make anybody feel bad. I can speak directly from where I allow that to not be a barrier, but a bridge for where I was going. Okay. Number 9, women of color are more likely to say advocacy, mentorship, and sponsorship are critical allyship actions. So when you look at these scales here, all of the respondents on the surveys were asked to rank how they view allyship and what's most important to them. And women of color said that the top 2 priorities for them are advocating for new opportunities for women of color and mentoring or sponsoring one or more women of color, versus white employees who says advocating for women for new opportunities was like their 3rd preference and mentoring was their last. And that speaks to some of the privileges that people have had access to. I can tell you a lot of what I've learned and how to be socially responsible and kind of have that organizational intelligence, if you will, to be able to navigate politics, I learned from my white colleagues. There were many opportunities where I've had a great idea, or I wanted to contribute to something for a new assignment or a new project that we were working on. And I noticed very young in my career how my voice would often get left over. It's part of the reason why I went back to school. Because I said, you know what, if my gender and my color won't let me in the door, the title has to. And so what I learned in that process was a couple of my colleagues would notice how I would be looked over when it came to certain opportunities. And so we made this pact together that, hey, Kristal, if you bring it up, I'll back it up. You bring it up in the meeting, and I'll be the one to say, and yeah, and if we do that, we can do A, B, and C. And that was our method. That was how we began to break ground. And then once my contribution started being recognized as value adds to the business, then it made it a lot easier. Of course, I had to become a student of my craft. That meant that I had to show up and know what the heck I was talking about, right? Because I probably wasn't going to be permitted in that room again. I remember probably about 4 years ago, me and one of my white colleagues were preparing to go into a meeting. We were getting ready to present some information. And I got a call from my son who was in college. He was driving home from spring break, and he happened to have one of his Hispanic friends in a car with him, female. Driving across, he got pulled over by the police. He says, Mom, I just got pulled over by the police. And I can hear in his voice, he was super panicked, he was super afraid. I'm like, what's going on? You all right? He says, yeah, I was speeding. They made me get out of the car. They put handcuffs on me and put me in the back seat of the car, but I'm okay. I said, well, take a moment, breathe. He said, I feel like really the only reason why I wasn't harassed because I had my friend in the car with me. So take a moment, breathe, get yourself together. Got him together, got off. My colleague says, are you really about to go in the meeting and present this information to our executive team and you just got that news? I literally had about 60 seconds to shake it off and get it together and walk in and present what I was scheduled to present. Real things, real barriers. But again, barrier or bridge. Okay. And then the very last thing I want to share is women who are onlys are more likely to experience microaggression. I was kind of alluding to this a little bit earlier. So if I am the only woman and I am the only Black, then that could potentially make me more prone to specific microaggressions, right? Not always, but this is, again, just based on the research. I can speak from that from direct experience now. Okay? Again, didn't allow it to be a barrier, certainly serving as a bridge for me. Okay, so that said, I just kind of want to know a little bit, if you guys are willing to share, what are some of your personal barriers? What are some of the challenges that you've had to overcome? I want to hear from people from across the room. You can shout them out. Say that again. Work conflicts. Okay. Age. Good one. Yep. Discrimination. Say that again. Working in male-dominated fields. Overeducated. Going to predominantly white schools. These are potential barriers, right? Here's my question. This is where we're going to get a little bit real. What is that a barrier to? What is that a barrier to? If this is stopping you, what is it stopping you from? Socioeconomic status, okay? So the reason why I bring that question, thank you for lending that. The reason why I bring that up is because oftentimes, if you don't know where you're going, how are you going to know how to get there? That is so key. So here's the reality. Everybody in their life face some sort of a barrier, whether it's socioeconomic, whether it's family dynamics, whether it's health, whether it's whatever it is, it's really about understanding that that's just a part of life. Some things are just strictly not fair. Some things are just unjust. Some things are just the way that they are. But guess what? If we stay with the mindset that this is just how it is, and I just have to bow down to that experience or whatever it is, we'll always be in a place of stuck. And I made the decision a long time ago when I dropped out of high school to give birth to my son at 18. Once I saw his little life, that I had to do something different with mine. Once I knew that I was now responsible for another life, everything about life all of a sudden became serious to me. I ended up going back. I put my education on hold for a couple of years just so I can figure some things out. I tried the welfare system. That didn't work. At 21, I ended up having to go back and earn a high school diploma, get my bachelor's, my master's, and then eventually my doctorate, because I didn't want him to feel stuck or limited. I could have easily used it as a barrier. The neighborhoods and the communities that I grew up in, that was just the norm. But I just refused to become another statistic. So I had to determine where I was going. So when you think about where you are going, where you're headed, despite the barriers that exist in any setting, the question that I have for you, a rhetorical question, you don't have to answer this now. The question that I have for you is, what results are you looking to achieve? If you know you're headed somewhere, or even if you don't know where you're headed, what are you looking to accomplish? Because once you know what you want, then you start planning to achieve that. You're familiar, anybody familiar with the results pyramid? Right. So the results pyramid is based on a theory that was created by two authors by the name of Connors and Smith. They wrote a book a couple of years ago called Change the Culture, Change the Game. And what they talked about and discussed in their book was, hey, regardless of whatever type of experiences you want to, or results you want to see, you have to create the experiences that are going to get you there. And their model essentially says that whatever experiences you have is going to foster what you believe about a certain thing, certain situation, or whatever that applies to. Whatever you believe is going to determine how you act. However you act is going to determine the results that you get. Let's make this very practical. If I am a student here at Ivy Tech and I have an amazing experience with my admissions counselor, I am going to believe, man, this is a great place for me to pursue my education. And guess what? I'm going to put my best foot forward, and I'm going to act on the reasons why I chose to pursue education in the first place. And I'm ultimately going to get the results that I'm looking for. I'm going to graduate. I'm going to set myself up for a great future. Contrarily, if I have a poor experience, I'm probably going to be thinking, man, did I make the right decision? I don't believe that this may be my final stop, or maybe I should consider transferring out to another school, or perhaps this class is just not as important enough because my instructors haven't created the experiences that I think are going to be pretty welcoming, or that's going to set me up for success. And as a result of that, some of their actions may be not coming to class, not submitting assignments on time, being disrespectful when they do show up, not being fully engaged, or whatever that looks like. And then ultimately, you don't get the results that you're looking for from that perspective as well. So I started to think about that philosophy in everything that I do. When I was looking for results in certain things and it didn't quite turn out the way that I wanted it to, let me go back to the experience. This is like basic life stuff, right? You have these authors put together this whole model and write this whole book, but like, this just makes sense to me, right? If I am getting the type of results that I want to get, it's probably based on the experiences, and I'm going to keep doing those things, okay? So what if I told you that those barriers are really bridges to grant you access to the results that you need? Anybody, would you believe me? I don't know, Kristal. Haven't got to where I want to go yet. I don't know. No, really, I really want to shift perspectives, because yes, all those stats are very real. But if you read the rest of that report, it really talks about the amazing things that women are doing and making history every day. And so I want to shift your perspective to say, hey, it can be an opportunity, or I can use this to keep me in a place where I am and continue to use it as an excuse. And I personally don't take well to a victim's mentality, especially when I consider all of the barriers that I've had to overcome to get to where I am now. You can't tell me that it won't happen. Not if I know it happened for me. Yeah, I had to put a lot of work in, made a lot of sacrifices. But at the end of the day, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. We think ourselves right in the spots where we are right now. Okay? What kind of experiences are you creating to get the results that you want? And so this lends itself to a bit of personal accountability, because oftentimes we limit our experiences, our opportunities on what others can do for us, even as women. And I know some of the most hard working, sacrificing women who are so dedicated to their crafts, and they are seeing the results that they want to see. And they're going to get it one way or another by any means necessary. And they don't let what's going on in society dictate how they're going to live their lives. They just don't. I happen to be one of those women. When everything was going on with the Black Lives Matter, I'm going to get a little controversial here, but I won't take these words back. It's recorded. Yeah. But when everything was going on with that, people asked me, what's your stance on that? Of course, Black Lives Matter. I'm Black. Right? But yeah, the Black community, we have to do some things that we can show that Black Lives Matter to us as well. I'm just going to be real. Right? In the same way that other areas of life and other communities need to develop in those areas, we just got to first be honest and have that real conversation. This is probably a 4-week hairstyle. These are called sister locks. This is a cultural do for African-American women that allows us to wear our natural hair and style it however we want. But I didn't want to get this style because I didn't want to go through what I like to refer to as the ugly stage. This, my friends, is the ugly stage. But here's why I'm sharing this story. It's because I've worn my hair in different styles, and I got a really bad case of alopecia at the top of my hair, the top of my scalp. There's a certain part of my scalp where my hair just will not grow. I've tried steroid injections, I've tried treatments, I've tried everything, but I realized it can't grow or it can't heal until it was exposed. Once I exposed it, I mean, you guys probably wouldn't have even known it had I not told you, right? I think I disguised it pretty well, but that's what we do, right? That's what we do. But seriously, if you want the kind of results, you got to first be honest with yourself. You want to start creating those experiences, you have to be able to lean in to right where you are. Doesn't matter what happened in the past. Doesn't matter what the naysayers are saying. Doesn't matter what everybody else believes. What do you believe to create those type of experiences? And I want to suggest to you, I want to share a model with you that was created by my good friend, Dr. Will Moreland. I want to suggest a model that he coached me on quite a few years ago, and I have taken it to heart, and I promise I've been living my best life ever since. He taught me a model of what it really means to live from your core. And I'm going to share that with you all today in hopes that you would use that philosophy, that thinking pattern, whatever it could potentially mean for you to start shaping the experiences that you want so you can start getting the results that you want to see. So the first letter, core, is clarity. This is about becoming super duper clear on what you want. What do you want? What do you want at work? What do you want in your personal life? What do you want for your family? And here, I would invite you women, be selfish a little bit. What do you want? Not what your spouses or partners want, not what your children want, not what your family or siblings want for you. What do you want? And we don't ask that question enough because we are so busy taking care of everybody else. In fact, I asked this question to a young woman a couple of weeks ago, and she cried because she said, you know what? That is the first time that I have been challenged with that question because I'm always taking care of everybody else. I don't even know what I want. So become really, really, really clear on what you want. And sometimes that may mean going on a clarity journey. That clarity journey, let me just give you a brief experience of mine and what I did and what actually helps me. I went back through my life and I performed a decade scope. I'm just calling it a decade scope. But I looked at my life in 10-year increments. And I started to think back, what are the milestones? What were some of the most significant events that happened in my life? Good, bad, or ugly? And I started to ask myself about all those events in those 10-year increments. Did I celebrate them? If it was an accomplishment, did I celebrate it? If it was something that is still unresolved or wasn't a great experience, did I resolve it? Because what you'll find is part of the barriers or some of the things that you may perceive to be a barrier actually started probably way back in your first 10 years of life that was just never really resolved. And no doubt, and I'm no psychologist or anything like that, but when I look back at my own life, I can say, man, I know exactly where I developed that insecurity from. I know exactly where I developed that hyperachiever attitude from. I know exactly how I picked up that restless behavior. Okay? So I went through and I began to do a clarity journey. What do I like? What don't I like? Do I really like chicken? Or do I like chicken because people say Black people like chicken? Right? I mean, seriously, what do I like? What don't I like? What makes me happy? What makes me laugh? You know what I found out? Sometimes having no agenda days makes me so happy. I don't have anything to do. You mean I get to navigate this day how I want to? Oh, this is a win for sure. No agenda days. Days when I can laugh. And I mean just laugh from the pit of my belly. Laugh, right? I love those moments. Days when I can sip a glass of wine and just listen to some good music and sing along in the lyrics. That's what I like. When I don't have to be referred to as Dr. Walker or Mom or Babe. I like those days. I like those moments. That's what I like. So from there, I had to start figuring out how can I create more opportunities on the things for the things that I like. What opportunities should I be looking for? Now that I've become super clear on what I like and what I don't like, how am I going to set my life up? Professionally, personally, spiritually, and everything in between. How am I going to set my life up to where I experience more of what I like? How can I start to be more honest in the moment about the things that I don't like? Okay, opportunities. How can I create opportunities for myself as opposed to waiting for someone to create them for me? So a few years ago, I was working as a director of organizational development for a company. And I had moved, I spent 10 years in academia. I was a professor for 10 years. And I decided I'm tired of the schools that I taught at didn't have a 10-year track system. So I got tired of negotiating contracts every year. So I said, I am going to go, and that was a hard struggle. You're talking about trying to understand what I like and what I don't like. Do I really give somebody 40 hours of my time when I've been teaching? That was a struggle for me. So I decided I was going to resolve it by working as a corporate trainer. So I did that and I started building up all these experiences, but I still had this doctorate degree that I wanted to continue to add to the body of knowledge. So I said, you know what? I know what I want to do. I want to be a thought leader. I want to be able to, areas that I'm really interested in, I want to be able to add new information to it. I want to continue to research and be the best that I can be in those areas. So I went to my boss and I said, hey, I have a lot of speaking engagements that I've done, a lot of presentations, a lot of information that I've just kind of created. I want to start creating like a portfolio to just house my accomplishments. If I build a website, will that be seen as a conflict of interest because of my role? And it really was just a place for people to go and see. I wasn't selling anything. Lo and behold, what I didn't know after I built it, she goes, yeah, you weren't selling what we're selling. I don't see a conflict at all. So I built this website and I started housing all of my accomplishments and things like that. What I didn't know was about a year or two later, I was going to be walking away from that job, a 6-figure paying job, because it was stressing me to head out. And what I didn't know is that I was building a portfolio that was eventually going to position me to be a great consultant. And I started using this website to market my business. And one of the key phrases that I have on this website is if there is no blueprint for where you want to go, create one. Don't beg for opportunities, breathe them. Don't walk around with a handout thinking someone thinking that someone owes you something, right? Even as women, with all of the barriers that we just experienced, hey, if it needs to be created, create it. If it's never been done, do it. If you're concerned about getting the short end of the stick, bring yours. And it wasn't until I shifted my thought process and started thinking like that, I started to see different things happen, and I started to align those opportunities with what I want. The next thing is, what do you need? Who do you need to be in relationship with? What you'll learn is that the more clear you become on what you want out of life and the opportunities that you'll start to align yourself with, there are certain people that you absolutely need to be in relationship with. I don't care if you have an introverted or extroverted personality or anything in between. It's certain people that you should absolutely be in relationship with and certain people that you should. And I started to look at it this way. Where's this place? Can anybody tell me where this place is?
Aruba.
Aruba. Hint, hint. This is anywhere you want it to be. This is like my happy place. I just told you guys, like, I love water, I love wine, and I love music. If I could sit in that environment all day, I would, right? So imagine if you were on a ship headed to this particular location. Can you imagine being on a ship with somebody who was complaining the entire time, who never wanted to come to this location to begin with, but they just wanted to be connected to you, and they're making your trip miserable the entire time? When you're in a relationship with people, it should be because they align with where you're going. And if you have to think about that, like your current circle right now, man, can I take you to? Can we go here without you being, think about that seriously. My good friend asked me this question. He goes, Kristal, think about it this way. If you were only given at 43, that's how old I am now. Said, but if you were given 50 more Christmases, only 50, who would you want to be with you on those days? If you only had 50 more birthdays, that would put you at what, 93 years old. If you only had 50 more birthdays, who would you want to spend them with? He said, now, 50 birthdays is different than having a whole bunch of Mondays in the 50-year period, or a whole bunch of Tuesdays in the 50-year period. So everybody else can get that other time. But these valuable moments where you are building and you are driving that clarity and you're taking advantage of the opportunities that have, let it be with people who are going to add value to you as well. And that was a great analogy for how I determined who gets my in-person time, who gets my phone time, who gets my text time, and who don't get any of my time at all. That was my way of managing and building my relationships and shifting my circle. And then the last thing, what kind of experiences will you have as a result of the work that you do once you become clear on what you want and you align yourself with those opportunities and you take advantage of those relationships? Think about the experience now. Now you have really truly positioned yourself that I don't care what barrier is coming up. I know what I want. I know the opportunities that I need to take advantage of to get there. And I know what relationships I need to develop. So even if it were with some of those people who may have potentially offended you along the way, if you need to be in a relationship with them, you do what you got to do. Doesn't mean that you got to be best buds, but you are headed somewhere. And that's the person that's going to help you get there. Last thing I'll say before I open it up for questions, if you have any, is develop a toolkit. Whatever that toolkit, whatever you need to have and craft and keep available in your toolkit, make it available. I like to say it this way: become a student of your craft. Whatever you're in, whatever you like, learn it and become a master at it as much as you can. When you have those tools, I'm always reading something about training. I'm always reading something about diversity. I'm always reading something about leadership in the areas that I have responsibility for. And I know what tools to pull out of my arsenal when I need them. And that's so, so, so important. If you don't have any tools, that leaves you open to becoming super discouraged when you start to hit some of those barriers. When you know what tools you have available and you really make up your mind that you're going to live from your core, it makes all the difference in the world with how you navigate life in general. So I'll just say, thank you guys for just giving me this opportunity to share some of the things that have helped me out along my journey. I hope that you found some of these things helpful, these resources helpful. I'll take a moment to answer any questions, but I also wanted to just give my contact information if you're interested in staying connected. I'm on all the social media platforms. I'm at Sweetwater. Not telling everybody to pop up, but if you're ever there and say, hey, is Dr. Walker here? I'll come out and swipe my card to get you lunch or something like that. But I do am very appreciative of these opportunities. I'm not saying everybody show up to my job too much. Let me just clarify that real quick. I realize I just walked right into that. But at this time, any questions? Any questions at all? Yes.
What you want to do, how do you get to that place? Because sometimes when you're asked, well, what do you want to do? Or that question, what do you want to be when you grow up? And if you don't know, how do you get to that?
It starts by just asking, like, what do you like to do? For me, it was that 10-year journey. It was that decade scope. So I started off first thinking about, man, is there some things that I just knocked out of the park, but I just forgot to celebrate? I was waiting on others to celebrate for me. Like, I need to pat myself on the back. That was good work, right? And then for some of those areas that probably didn't feel good, man, did I ever resolve that? Or am I still bitter about that particular situation? That's foundational, because I think once you get to a point to where you're ready to start making moves or you have identified what you want to do, those things are going to hold you up. Because if you don't take a moment to celebrate yourself, you're always going to be looking for validation from somebody else. And that's how we end up having the wrong circles in relationships, because we're looking for people to do what we probably should have did for ourselves, right? The other thing is, if I have something that I've gone through in life and it's not resolved properly, that can also hold you back from even seeing that you're worthy of the opportunities that you may pursue, right? So you have to be able to resolve those things. I'll tell you, when I put 43 years of becoming Kristal, like, I had to resolve some really, really, really hard stuff. I am still resolving some things. I have put on the calendar the last day of every month. That's the day I'm celebrating whatever I accomplished this month. I just brought me like an old school Nintendo 64 to play Super Mario Brothers. Like, that's what I like to do. Let me save the princess and get past this level. I remember doing that. It was so much fun. But that's like small things like that. You'll be amazed. What are some of the things that you do easily, you don't even think about, but everybody else is, how the heck did you do that? Like, somehow that's connected to your potential and can be crafted into a purpose. Now you just got to pursue it. Okay. So a lot of that, it didn't take me a day. It took me a couple of months to go on that clarity journey. Like, what really do I like? I had to start trying new things. The things that, again, people thought that I should be doing just because I'm a Black woman or just because I fit in this particular class or whatever, I had to make up my mind. Do I really want to do that? Or am I just doing it because I want to fit in? This was key for me. And I'll say this, and we still got time. Okay. So last year, I moved here. I've been here in Fort Wayne for a little over a year now. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. Born and raised there, lived there my entire life. People ask me all the time, why are you in Fort Wayne? Sweetwater, simple answer, right? But I remember when I got here, I was here not even 90 days, and my husband got sick. He works for Parkview. He was doing some work, and he had a pain in his leg. Turns out it was a blood clot. The doctor gave him some medication. Turns out that medication caused an adverse reaction on his kidneys, causes kidneys to shut down to 6%. Like, I'm in a new place, no family, it's just us, and I'm just trying to figure out what, right? So we don't have any family here. We got a 5-year-old here. I'm at the mercy of everybody. And I'm trying to decide, what are we gonna do? Like, why this, why now, why here, right? So we get him all well. A month later, I get sick. I started having cardiovascular pain in my chest. I ended up having to have emergency cardiovascular surgery 4 months into my role here. Right? Like in the process of them doing the surgery, they punctured my left lung. So now I got a left lung that's punctured. I'm in surgery. Like all of this is like within my first 6 months of being here. And I'm like, what the heck? So I got out of the hospital, I got well. June 1st, I was back on the scene. I did the United Front speaking engagement. I probably should have ran because I didn't realize how much attention and exposure that was going to give me. So then I started getting a bunch of people reaching out like, hey, Doc, can you come and speak here? Can you come and talk about that? And I would love to do all of that. But what I didn't consider was, one, Christy, you're a full-time employee of Sweetwater. Let's remember that. You have an executive role. You've got a lot of responsibility. And two, you just got out of the hospital. Hell, right? Here's what I learned, because November last year, I had a slight scare. I thought I was going to go back into the hospital. What I learned in that moment was I'm going to do two things to manage my own well-being. The first thing is when people ask me to be a part of certain things, I'm going to ask, I'm not going to give an immediate yes. Because at first, they're like, oh, yeah, I'll do it. Oh, yeah, I'll do it. Oh, yeah. The next thing you know, like I got a crazy schedule. Like this month, I don't even know how I got 10 speaking engagements for March. Like, how did that happen? And I was supposed to have been taking care of myself, right? But I said, first things first, I'm not going to offer an immediate yes, right? That takes pressure off of me of feeling like I got to just give you an answer, right? Let me get back with you. Let me check my calendar. Let me pray about it, right? Second thing is, once I got those invitations, I was going to ask, why? The person, I get a lot of invitations, Kristal, can you mentor me? And I had to start asking the question, there's a bunch of people here in Fort Wayne, there's a bunch of people that I know, why me? And it was an opportunity to check their motives and mine. So from them, if they took offense with me asking that question, that's already a red flag, right? Or maybe you don't need me, maybe you need access to the resources that I got, and I can give you that and it won't require any of my time, right? But then, let me check my motives. Why did I say yes to these? Do I need that validation? Am I chasing the paycheck? Am I still trying to put myself on the map and create a brand? Like I thought we did that already. And so it allowed me to ask myself really, really, really important questions in terms of how I manage my own. I only get one Kristal. And I'll tell you, when I was laying in that hospital bed, I was not thinking about Sweetwater. I was not thinking about Ivy Tech. I was thinking about my 5-year-old baby that I needed to get home to. And so, when you become clear, because in that moment, all of the things that I thought were important weren't. They just weren't important at all. They just went away. And I allowed myself to get right back into such a busy mode. And it's like, Kristal, stop. It's okay. It's great to be in demand, but you don't have to accept every invitation. Take care of yourself. How can you be the vice president of employee well-being when you aren't well? And so that's about being super clear. What do you want? What do you need? For me, again, I like no agenda days. I like to be happy and smile. It's crazy, contrary, right? She likes no agenda days, but she keeps giving herself an agenda. I don't understand. I'm learning. I'm growing. So I went a long way around. I hope that answered your question. Any other questions?
I have a question in
Yes.
the chat. She's coming to me. So hi, I have a question from the chat box here, and it is in relation to your consultation and your role at Sweetwater, and they want to know, more about balance and how how do you choose from something you're really passionate about and your full-time job and more about balance of those things.
Sure. So first things first, I remember I'm not 23, I'm 43. And in my mind, I still feel like I can do some of those 23-year-old things. And my body keeps telling me, Kristal, sit down. So part of it is really understanding what my energy level and what my capacity is. And things that are like really energy draining, I try to avoid, especially if it's not adding any value to anybody. The other thing, and I'll share this was extremely helpful for me. So a good friend of mine invited me to be a part of a coaching experience with her a couple years ago. And she introduced me to this book called Positive Intelligence. It's written by a gentleman by the name of Shazar Chamine. And I would challenge you all. You really want to grow? I mean, this is some painful growth, but it's the Bible. Okay, it is really, really, really good. I cried for about 2 weeks with this experience. It's called Positive Intelligence. If you go to their website, they have a free assessment that you can take. It's about 5 minutes or so. They have a free assessment that you can take that's going to introduce you to your saboteurs, your self-sabotaging behaviors. And there's a category of 9 saboteurs, but they rank them in the order based on how you answer the questions. And what I learned in that process is what my top 3 saboteurs were: stickler, this need for perfection; hyperachiever, this need to always be better than everybody and bring my best; and restless, this need to always be doing something. And so to answer that question, that process for me, that survey and assessment was really enlightening for me. And once I realized how I was sabotaging experiences, relationships, opportunities by operating in those 3 areas most of the time, and it was starting to have a physical impact on my body, I had to just stop and back up and recognize, hey, maybe things don't need to be perfect, Kristal. Maybe instead of trying to get it to 100%, maybe you just take it to 60 and hand it off to your team and let them do some work. And I adopted what I like to refer to as a cell phone model. They never get an upgrade up to 100%. They get it right to where they wanted to go because they build a business model off of upgrading. So if I can work on something to 60, give it to my team, let them take it to 80, I can take it to 85, 90, I can go forward with that. I'm not looking for perfection anymore. That was part of my balance. Being a hyperachiever. Do I need to be doing everything? Do I need to be thinking about bringing my A game all the time? That's hard for me because I do want to deliver in excellence, right? The restlessness. Do I have to be doing everything? No, just say no, it's okay. So part of it is really understanding what are some of those things that are just extremely drowning? What are some of those things that I've adopted that has become self-sabotaging? That's a huge way that I started to, and that I'm still trying to get balance.
What was that assessment tool again?
It's positiveintelligence.com. Positiveintelligence.com. They just reformatted their website. So I think at the top of their menu items, if you select saboteur assessment or saboteur results or something like that, it'll take you right there. It's free. It's only going to take about 5 to 10 minutes. And then they're going to email you a report. And you can read through that report. And I'll tell you, I took it twice. When I took it the first time, spot on, if you're honest. Any other questions? I think I got time for maybe 1 or 2 more. And I'm only asking because like right after this, I got to head off. I got a meeting on site. So any other questions, thoughts about anything we talked about today? Did anybody find what I've shared today pretty enlightening? Empowering? I'm glad you did, because a lot of this, sometimes you go through things in life and you wonder, this just doesn't make any sense to me. Or this is so doggone hard, but you realize it really was for moments like this for you to be able to share with somebody else how you did it and how you overcame it. Yes, I see your hand. That's okay.
When you get the opportunity to do something and you find yourself being like afraid to do it, how do you work past that fear?
You do it scared. You just do it afraid, right? Certain things, especially if it's something big you've never done, like it's scary. I can tell you, like, if there was one point in my time where I felt like I needed to just get certain validation for certain things, but then I resolved it this way. I didn't want to come across as being insecure and taking advantage of new opportunities. But I also realized when you're operating in spaces and places where you've never done, that you've never been, you need a little bit of validation to know if you're doing it right, right? It's no different than if I'm running a test or I'm doing something and I need to check to make sure my answers are valid, right? If I'm operating in a new space, in a new place, I may be looking for a little bit of validation from somewhere. I heard Oprah say this one time. She was giving a commencement speech for Harvard, and she said, hey, I've interviewed millions and millions of people on my show, or thousands of people on my show. And she said, the number one question that comes up, I don't care if it's Obama, Beyonce, whoever she's interviewed, the number one question that comes up is, how did I do? Right? People look for that validation. And so once I resolve that, the question then is, who do I get that validation from? I'm not getting it from somebody who's never been there. I need to go to the person that's already operating and who have conquered that space to get their perspective and their feedback. So a lot of times I've had to do it scared. And I've been, I guess it depends on how you look at it, fortunate, unfortunate. I've been the first of many in my family. First to go to college, first to break off and do my own business, first to do a lot of different things. And I realized I've been put in a position, first to have a VP role at Sweetwater, VP of Employee Wellbeing, first Black executive, right? Some of those things probably were uncomfortable or uncommon, but I had to do it even if I was afraid. Any other questions? I want to put you guys on the spot. I thank you so much for your attention today, just for coming here. You could have been anywhere in the world today, but you chose to be here. Maybe not in the world, maybe not in that picture, but at least somewhere in Fort Wayne vicinity. But thank you guys so much for your time and for your attention. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, one more time. Let's hear it again for Dr. Kristal Walker. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you everybody for joining us. And again, we appreciate you being here. If you guys have not had an opportunity of Student Life and the Diversity Council here in Fort Wayne, as well as just Student Life in general, we have 3 different series going on that support our initiatives that we run for our Student Life office. So one is the Diversity Series. Many of you, I see familiar faces. You've been to a lot of our Diversity Series events. So to find out more information about that, you can check out one of those flyers. We also have a leadership series that just started last week. So all the things that we're talking about today, leadership, diversity, and then finally we have a wellness series that is also going on, our Rose Model Wellness Series that's been happening all year. So check out those series. They're ongoing activities that we have available to our students, to our staff, and our faculty here at Ivy Tech. So please check us out later. Thank you again for being here. Thank you to our folks in Warsaw for joining and our folks online. So have a wonderful day, everybody.